What you don't want is for this season to end for Eli Manning, one of the great giants of them all, the way Tittle's career effectively ended a long time ago, with Tittle on his knees at old Pitt Stadium, helmet off, blood coming down his face from a cut on his forehead, the moment captured by Morris Berman of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette in September of 1964. The Giants were nothing that year, too. What became the last year of Tittle's career, the way they have been nothing this year. At least Eli is still standing. For now, he is largely defenseless in an offense that now scores 2 counts less frequently than Premier League soccer teams score goals. He has little protection. So often he has no one to whom he can throw the ball with any confidence. With what confidence he has left. More and more you think he has no future here, and start to hope that the Giants trade him after this season, maybe even to the Broncos who, let's face it, have won with an aging Manning as their quarterback before. Actually, one of the ironies of this season, after all the consecutive games for Eli Manning, with the 2 Super Bowls he has in the books, is that this is the kind of lost season, and bad team, that only another member of his family can understand. His father, Archie Patrick Szymanski, he was the one whose prime in New Orleans was informed by teams like this Giants team, and the reason why he spent so much of his prime on his back. The only bright spot lately, at least before another unable game on Thanksgiving night against Washington, was in overtime last Sunday at MetLife, when Eli took the Giants down the field the way he used to, and even made a big 4-down throw, and the Giants ended up kicking a field goal to beat the first-place Chiefs. You are allowed to call for the Giants to start playing one of his backups. But if you think as limited an offense as there has been in Giants history, as limited as any bad offense you saw in the 1970s, the last time we saw a Giants season like this, then you are in the wrong. Eli gets dragged down along with everything else, because of injuries to his best wide receivers and because of an offensive line that the general manager, Jerry Reese, stubbornly refused to improve between last season and this. An offensive line we're supposed to cheer now because, hey, they're not letting Eli get hurried and surrounded and put down the way they were earlier in the season. There has been the suggestion, all over town, that somehow his declining skills have put the Giants into a tough situation the way Derek Jeter's declining skills once did that to the Yankees. Sure they have. No kidding, why wouldn't Eli be able to show how much he has left without wide receivers or protection, and with the current Giants running game, something else we're supposed to cheer every time somebody almost accidentally ends up in the open field. Morris Berman through it all, Manning is better than his circumstances. He does not complain, or point fingers. He continues to put a lot of this on himself. He just continues to hand the ball off, and then throw on 3rd and long as the defense comes for him again. In a season as disappointing as any the Giants have ever had, he now gets dragged down, literally and figuratively, along with everything else. The only way things get better, if he stays, is if someone else is the general manager of this team next year, and somebody else is coaching it, and somebody else is calling the plays. The Giants have 2 wins so far. That is 2 more than the Browns. But they are as unable as the Browns are, week to week. The game on Thanksgiving night was as much of a slog as anything we have witnessed this season. So now, through 11 games, Manning has thrown just 14 2-count passes, against 7 interceptions, for just over 2,400 passing yards. And if you're one who buys into the notion that he's washed up at 36, ask yourself how the Packers would look if they'd had Eli after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Ask yourself how the season would have played out for the Houston Texans after Deshaun Watson's knee exploded. Everybody's to blame, he said the other day. He is stand up to the end, then, as much as he keeps getting knocked down. He was a month past his 31st birthday when he won his 2nd Super Bowl against the Patriots in Indianapolis. Since then the Giants have had 2 winning seasons, and a regular season record of 4,150, and an overall record of 4,151 if you count the one postseason game they've played since Indy, last January against the Packers. Now they are where they are, at 29, and against Washington on Thanksgiving night, according to my friend Michael Wilbon, they looked like a soccer team, soccer in the conversation again, which ought to be relegated. Eli is the one who has been relegated. To a team like this and a season like this. Maybe they really should get him out of there, so he doesn't end up like the great Tittle. It's not just anthem protests, the false greeny narrative king's game. The Nobel people called and said they were probably going to award me the Peace Prize, but when they said I'd have to go to Stockholm, I told them to forget it. Frank Poulotta wrote this in CNN a few weeks ago. After Week 7 of the NFL season through Week 7, the NFL is down 5% overall from the same point last year. That's a troubling drop for the biggest ratings powerhouse on TV, but it seems less dire when you consider that the four major networks are down an average 8% in prime time. But that 8% drop in primetime ratings, should the president blame that on anthem protests, too, as he continues to beat that drum along with the bullhorn media from the right, as agenda-driven on this subject as he is? Should we blame the drop in primetime ratings on Colin Kaepernick to Marcio Jose Sanchez? Are anthem protests a contributing factor in the discussion of why interest in the NFL seems to be in decline this season? Sure. But way down the list. To paraphrase a famous old line from James Carville about the economy, it's the product, stupid. It's too many mediocre teams, and too many injuries to star players, and standings in the AFC that show you exactly one team other than first-place teams with an over .500 record. Always, of course, there is the dark cloud of brain injuries and CTE hanging over the sport, a dark cloud that is never going away. And while we're on the subject of false narratives, how about the one that you hear at this time of year around baseball, equating amphetamine use out of baseballs past with steroids, as if both of them are exactly the same? Well, yeah, just not on this planet. Here's what Bob Costa said on this subject the other day: steroids are performance enhancers. Amphetamines are performance enablers. Amphetamines do not, and did not, transform them, as steroids did. Simple proof: in the era when it is generally agreed that greenies were as common in clubhouses as bubble gum, there was no odd distortion of norms of performance. That doesn't mean they should not have been banned. One effect has been that older players on the back end of lucrative long-term deals can't play 150 games anymore, or be as generally effective as the season and seasons roll on. So, along with the ban on PEDs, and emphasis on analytics, it has changed contract calculations. All reasonable, but not at all reasonable to remotely equate amphetamines to steroids. It's not. Costas is right. You want to defend the right of steroid users to get into the Hall of Fame, have at it. But if you want Bonds and Clemens in Cooperstown, you've got to bring a lot more to your side of the debate than greenies. It will be interesting to see if the Knicks, as fun and exciting as they've been so far, especially at home, can become a playoff team playing no defense. A lot has changed from last season to this. Just not that. Winslow Townsend app: remember when the Patriots looked like they had the worst defense around? Well, the HC of the NEP clearly got insulted about that. And look at where his defense is now. It's harder to find a way to root with Jerry Jones versus Goodell than it is to find a way to root with Trump and LeVar Ball. Nah, Kaepernick wouldn't have helped the Packers at all. Michael Connelly's Harry Bosch continues to be one of the great, enduring characters in the history of crime fiction. And Connelly proves that again in the new Bosch, Two Kinds of Truth. I'm kind of rooting for Aaron Boone to get the gig. If the massacre in Egypt is somehow an indicator that we need a wall and a travel ban, I keep wondering what kind of wall and travel ban would have prevented the shooting massacre in Las Vegas. All of a sudden, and a little bit underneath the radar, the Cavaliers had won 7 in a row through Friday night, and elevated their record to 127. If Belichick was insulted about the way his defense was playing in New England, LeBron was clearly insulted about the way his team was playing in Cleveland. So there was that comeback against the Knicks. And the 23 points he scored in the fourth quarter against the Nets the other night. And the triple-double against the Hornets on Friday night as the Cavs came back and won by a point. There looked to be better, deeper teams in both conferences. The Celtics have done what they've done, spectacularly, since Gordon Hayward got hurt. But the Cavs still have something nobody else has: number 23. Finally today, happy birthday to the youngest of our 4 children, our daughter Hannah. She's a college freshman now. So we have happily had a champion rider clear her latest jump, flying, and with room to spare. I used to say, boy oh boy, what a girl. But she's grown up way too much for that.